Okay, so every dungeon master knows this feeling, right? You've spent hours prepping. You've set the stage, you've got your NPCs ready, and you think you know exactly what's about to happen.
But then, it happens. They latch onto some random detail and head off in a direction you never saw coming. And it's not like they're trying to mess with you. From their perspective, it makes total sense. So really, what are you supposed to do then?
You start things off. You plan what you think is the perfect hook. It's obvious, it's compelling, it's foolproof.
You lay out all the clues. You clearly signal the path toward the awesome adventure you've got waiting for them.
And yeah, despite all that careful planning, the party just goes somewhere else entirely. It's a classic DM moment for sure, but it doesn't have to be a frustrating one.
So today we're going to talk about a mindset shift that changes everything. We're going to cover why there really is no wrong way, how to figure out what's really going on, and why this happens in basically every RPG. Then we'll get into 3 practical tools for handling these detours, and finally, we'll talk about when you actually should step in.
All right, first things first, and this is probably the biggest idea we're going to talk about. There is no such thing as the wrong way. To get why, you have to realize that you and your players are experiencing the game in 2 fundamentally different ways.
See, as the DM, you often see the campaign as a plotted story, a sequence of events leading from A to B to C. But your players, they don't see that plot. They experience the game as a decision space. So what is this decision space? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just the collection of all the choices that players think they have. What seems doable, what seems interesting, or what feels urgent to them, right now, from their character's point of view.
So when we get frustrated and say, they went the wrong way, what we really mean is that they followed a signal that we didn't realize we were sending. Maybe it was an NPC you improvised that they thought was way more interesting than the quest giver, or a little side mystery that felt more immediate, or a threat that just felt more personal to their characters.
The point is, players almost never ignore the story. They just follow the story that seems most compelling to them. And once you can accept that, your frustration starts to turn into a really valuable design insight.
And that insight leads us right to our next point, diagnosing the real problem. When the party veers off path, it's easy to think the players just missed a clue. But it's usually deeper than that. You need to look at their motivation, not just the information you gave them.
Ask yourself these 3 questions. First, did they have a clear reason to care about the path you wanted them to take? Second, did that choice actually change what they could do next in a cool, meaningful way? And third, did some other option on the table just feel way more urgent?
Think about it. If that side quest you improvised answered those questions better than your main plot hook, then from their point of view, that wasn't the wrong way. It was the obvious, most exciting way. This is why just adding more clues doesn't always work. The problem isn't a lack of information. It's a lack of clear motivation.
And hey, just so you know, this isn't you being a bad DM or your players being difficult. This is universal. This happens in every single role-playing game. It's a fundamental part of player psychology.
Seriously, I've heard this from people running Call of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade, you name it. It proves it's not about the game system. At the end of the day, all players respond to the same things: stakes they can understand, hooks that grab them emotionally, and choices they can make right now.
So the takeaway here is huge. The solution isn't to create an even stricter plot they can't escape from. The real solution is to design for flexible momentum.
Okay, so that sounds good, but how do you actually do that? Let's get super practical and talk about 3 tools you can use when your players take a detour. These are things you can pull out right there at the table.
Our 3 tools are move the consequences, reframe the goal, and turn detours into investment. Let's break them down.
First up, move the consequences, not the plot. So instead of trying to drag your players back to the main story, let the world react to what they're doing. While they're off chasing butterflies, the villain's evil plan moves forward. That ticking clock gets louder. Now their detour has real stakes, and the story's momentum keeps building.
Tool 2 is to reframe the goal. If your players get obsessed with a new thread, just ask yourself, okay, how can my main conflict show up here? Maybe the villain has agents in this town too. Maybe clues to the bigger mystery can be found right where they are. You're not trying to redirect them anymore. You're making their path and your plot converge. It's brilliant.
And our third tool is all about using their choices to your advantage. Turn detours into investment. When your players pick a new direction, they are literally screaming at you, hey, this is what we care about. So reward that. Lean into it. Because when players see their choices actually matter and shape the world, they get way more invested in whatever you throw at them next.
But, okay, I know what you're thinking. Is there ever a time when you should step in? And the answer is yes. This brings us to our last section. The key is you're stepping in to protect clarity, not to control the story.
You've got to learn to spot the difference between these two states at your table. Are your players curious and actively exploring? Awesome, let them cook. Or are they genuinely confused and stuck? Are they arguing about what to do because they have no idea what's going on? That's when you need to pause.
And it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can just pause the game and say, hey guys, just to make sure we're all on the same page, here's what your characters currently know about the situation. That's it. Remember, guidance isn't railroading. It's just making sure everyone is still playing the same game.
So let's circle all the way back to our original question. What do you do when players go the wrong way? The answer starts the moment you stop treating it like a personal failure.
And you start treating it as what it really is, incredibly valuable feedback.
Because every unexpected turn the story takes is a gift. It reveals exactly what your players value, what feels urgent to them, and what truly, genuinely grabs their attention.
And when you start designing around that feedback, you'll discover the truth. There's no such thing as the wrong direction. There are only new, unexpected, and often better paths to the story you're all building together.